In the spring of 1944, the Pacific Ocean was the largest battlefield the world had ever seen. From the jungles of New Guinea to the coral reefs of the Solomon Islands, the Allies and the Japanese Empire clashed in a struggle for dominance. But hidden beneath the surface, another war raged, silent, deadly, and relentless. It was a war beneath the waves, a war of submarines and the ships sent to hunt them down. In May of that year, a single U.S. Navy destroyer escort would enter the record books. Her name was USS England, and in just 12 days, she would sink 6 enemy submarines, a feat never matched before and never repeated since. This is the story of the destroyer escort that made history and the Japanese submarines that never returned. By 1944, Japan's fortunes in the Pacific had begun to collapse. Their once powerful navy had suffered defeats at Midway, at Guadalcanal, and across the Solomon Islands. American and Australian forces were advancing, island by island, pushing closer to Japan's empire. But even in retreat, the Imperial Japanese Navy still had one advantage: their submarine fleet. Japanese submarines were large, heavily armed, and capable of long-range patrols. Unlike German U-boats in the Atlantic, they were often used not just to attack Allied ships, but to carry supplies, reinforce garrisons, and scout ahead of naval forces. In May 1944, Japan prepared to send submarines on a crucial mission. They would deliver troops and equipment to Bougainville, a vital stronghold in the Solomon Islands. If the garrison fell, Japan's defensive line in the South Pacific would unravel even further. But the Japanese didn't know their plan was already compromised. American codebreakers, the unsung heroes of the Pacific War, had intercepted and decoded orders sent by Admiral Shigeyoshi Toyota. The Allies now knew exactly when and where the Japanese submarines would be moving, and they would be ready. The task of interception fell to 3 small warships: USS England, USS George, and USS Raby. Unlike the mighty battleships and aircraft carriers of the fleet, these were destroyer escorts, smaller, cheaper ships designed for one purpose: hunting submarines. They were armed with depth charges, sonar, and most importantly, a new weapon, the Hedgehog. Unlike depth charges, which exploded at preset depths, the Hedgehog fired a pattern of forward-launch explosives. They only detonated on contact, which meant if you heard an explosion, you knew you'd hit your target. On May 18, 1944, USS England and her companions set out from Manu's Island. Their orders were simple: find the Japanese submarines and sink them. The hunt was about to begin. May 18, 1944, somewhere in the Pacific, south of Bougainville. At dawn, the sonar operator aboard USS England leaned forward, headphones tight against his ears. The rhythmic hum of the ocean was broken by a faint, irregular echo, a metallic shape moving below. Contact. It was a Japanese submarine I-16, a large vessel, over 3,000 tons, and part of the reinforcement convoy Admiral Toyota had ordered forward. Inside the submarine, the Japanese crew knew little of the danger above. They were moving cautiously, aware of American patrols, but they didn't yet know their signals had been compromised. USS England and her sister escorts moved into position. Sonar tracked every turn, every attempt at escape. The captain of England, Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton, gave the order: fire Hedgehogs. The ship's bow erupted, launching a spread of explosives into the sea ahead. Dozens of projectiles sank silently, vanishing beneath the waves. For a moment, nothing, just the sound of water. Then a violent explosion shook the ocean. Then another, and another. The Hedgehogs had struck home. I-16 was torn apart in the depths. Oil, wreckage, and debris surged to the surface. Over 90 Japanese sailors were lost with her. For USS England, it was their first kill, and it had come with chilling ease. The very next morning, May 19th, another signal came through. Allied codebreakers had confirmed another submarine was inbound. This time, it was RO-106, a smaller Japanese sub, but still dangerous. Again, USS England moved to intercept. The destroyer escort spread out, sweeping the ocean with sonar. The men aboard were tense. Had their first victory been luck? Or could they repeat the performance? Hours passed before sonar picked up a new contact. RO-106 was spotted. The submarine, realizing it had been detected, tried to dive deep and slip away. The escort pressed in. Sonar pings echoed across the water. Depth charges rocked the sea, forcing IO-106 into desperate maneuvers. Once more, USS England fired a spread of Hedgehogs. The bombs fell in silence. The crew waited. Seconds felt like hours. Then, a thunderous detonation below. A roar of water and metal. The submarine's hull buckled and shattered. IO-106 was gone. 2 submarines in 2 days. The crew of USS England could hardly believe it. Some cheered. Others sat in silence, knowing that more battles lay ahead. But one thing was now certain. USS England had become a deadly hunter, and the Japanese Navy was about to find out just how dangerous she was. News of the kill spread quickly. To the American fleet, USS England was becoming a legend. To the Japanese, she was an invisible predator. But the hunt was far from over. The reinforcement mission still had more submarines moving south, and USS England had no intention of letting them pass. Within days, the destroyer escort would strike again and again until the ocean itself became a graveyard for Japan's undersea fleet. By May 22, 1944, USS England and her companions had already sent 2 Japanese submarines to the bottom, but Admiral Toyota's orders had committed more boats to the same dangerous route. The Americans knew they were coming. The only question was when and where. On the evening of May 22nd, sonar aboard USS George reported a faint contact, a small but distinct echo moving just below the thermocline, where layers of warm and cold water could confuse sonar. The target was IO-104, a coastal submarine of just over 900 tons. Its commander believed that shallow diving and frequent course changes could keep the Americans guessing. For a time, it worked. Hedgehog salvos from USS George and USS Raby splashed harmlessly into the sea. The Japanese submarine twisted and turned, barely evading the first attacks. Then USS England moved in. Her sonar team tracked the sub's every maneuver, calling out bearings and depth changes. Pendleton gave the order, "Fire." Hedgehog projectiles streaked into the sea. Seconds later, 4 near-simultaneous explosions shook the ocean. A massive column of water erupted as IO-104 was torn apart beneath the surface. The kill was so precise that oil and debris surfaced almost instantly. To the Americans, it was confirmation England was developing a deadly reputation. Her Hedgehog crews were now confident, steady, and lethal. 2 days later, on May 24th, the hunt continued. Another Japanese submarine, IO-116, was attempting to slip through. This time, the battle was harder. IO-116 was cautious, constantly changing depth and speed. Each time the Americans closed in, the submarine tried to escape beneath thermal layers of the Pacific. For hours, the escorts probed the sea, launching depth charges to shake the sub out of hiding. The men aboard England were exhausted. Each Hedgehog attack required precision. If the submarine turned even slightly, the pattern would miss. Several salvos failed. The Japanese crew must have felt they were just moments from freedom. But persistence won. Near midnight, sonar locked onto a firm echo. USS England launched another spread of Hedgehogs. This time, they hit. A thunderous explosion echoed through the night. The men on deck watched in silence as bubbles, oil, and fragments of steel broke the surface. IO-116 was gone. 4 Japanese submarines had now been destroyed in less than a week. On board USS England, the reality began to set in. They weren't just protecting Allied convoys. They were systematically dismantling an entire Japanese operation. In Tokyo, the Japanese High Command was alarmed. 6 submarines had been dispatched to Bougainville. Already, 4 had been lost. Still, they pressed on. 2 more submarines were en route. If they could get through, the reinforcement might yet succeed. But fate and USS England had other plans. The greatest kills were yet to come. By May 26, the men aboard USS England were running on adrenaline. 4 Japanese submarines had already fallen to their Hedgehog attacks. The ship's reputation was spreading through the fleet like wildfire. But the hunt wasn't over. Another submarine was inbound, IO-108. Early that morning, sonar contact was made. The sub was cautious, maneuvering slowly, trying to mask its noise against the natural sounds of the sea. But England's sonar team had grown sharper with each engagement. Every ping, every faint echo told them exactly where their prey was moving. Captain Pendleton maneuvered the ship into firing position. Fire Hedgehogs. The sea erupted with splashes as dozens of projectiles fell. Seconds ticked by, then a deafening blast, and another. IO-108 was hit directly. The submarine never had a chance. Its hull collapsed violently under the pressure, and within moments, it was gone. 5 submarines. In just 8 days. To the Japanese High Command, it was a disaster. Submarines meant to reinforce Bougainville were vanishing one after another. The supply mission was crumbling. By May 31st, the last of the group, IO-105, was still at sea. The Imperial Japanese Navy hoped that at least one submarine might complete its mission. But the Americans were waiting. This time, the hunt lasted longer. IO-105 was skillful, using every trick in the book. Sudden dives, radical turns, hiding beneath layers of warm and cold water. For over a day, 3 U.S. destroyer escorts, England, George, and Raby, took turns attacking. Hedgehog spreads detonated harmlessly. Depth charges rumbled in the deep. Again and again, IO-105 slipped away. For the sailors aboard England, frustration mounted. Fatigue gnawed at them. Could this be the submarine that finally escaped? At last, sonar locked on again. A sharp, clear contact. The range was perfect. Pendleton gave the order one final time. Fire. Hedgehog streaked into the ocean. Seconds later, a cluster of violent explosions thundered beneath the sea. The surface boiled with debris and oil. IO-105 was gone. 6 Japanese submarines, destroyed in just 12 days. The scale of the victory was staggering. Japan had sent 6 submarines to reinforce its garrison. None had returned. Hundreds of Japanese sailors lay at the bottom of the Pacific. For the Allies, the success was more than just tactical. It proved that American anti-submarine warfare had reached a new level of efficiency. Code breaking, sonar, hedgehogs, and destroyer escorts had combined into a lethal weapon. The name USS England spread quickly across the Pacific. The destroyer escort had become a legend. Admiral Ernest King, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Navy, famously remarked, "There will always be an England in the United States Navy." USS England's record remains unmatched to this day. No other anti-submarine vessel in history has sunk 6 enemy submarines in so short a time. But her own fate was tragic. A year later, during the battle for Okinawa, England was struck by a Japanese kamikaze plane. She sank on May 9, 1945. 37 of her crew were lost. Yet her legacy endured. The victories of May 1944 showed the world how technology, intelligence, and courage could combine to turn the tide of war. In the vast Pacific, where thousands of ships clashed and millions fought, the story of USS England stands out as a reminder that sometimes even the smallest ships can make the greatest difference. 6 submarines, 12 days, 1 ship. USS England.